Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS Slate Breakdown for September 11th. We're going to be breaking it down. We got 8 games to go over in Major League Baseball tonight. Still no NFL tonight, so baseball is still center stage. Make sure you watch all our other content. We have a ton of football stuff. We also have our props video coming out. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe to our videos and our channel, just because it helps improve our reach so much and give more and more content out for free. Now, let's dive into today's action. It is going to be a fun one. We will look at the perfect lineups first from yesterday and then dive into the slate at hand. So, perfect lineup on DraftKings. We got Seth Lugo, Pablo Lopez, and then all one-offs. Used almost all the salary. Pretty big score. Getting over to FanDuel now. We have, I believe Seth Lugo is the perfect lineup pitcher. He is. And then we have all one-offs. Oh, actually, we have a two-man Twins stack sneaking into the perfect lineup, using close to all the salary. Giant 354 score. And then the winning lineup went to Supreme, who had Pablo Lopez, 4-man Minnesota stack, 2-man Cleveland, then Cedric Mullins and Ellie De La Cruz with a 244.5 total. Literally 100 points less than the perfect lineup. This just goes to show you can add correlation to make it easier for you to win contests. You don't need to pick every person correctly. You don't have to be perfect. So use that correlation because it helps in making it easier to get a higher score. Now, let's dive in to the slate today. All right, highest owned pitcher is Michael King, 9,600, 27% home owned. Him and Blake Snell are neck and neck with the highest ownership. But Michael King's in a good spot. He is in a very nice pitcher-friendly park. He's been absolutely dealing. 2.6 ERA over his last 20 starts. FIP over his last 20 starts. 3.08 over his last 5. 30% K rate over the longer span. 28% over the last 5. And the guy's just been absolutely dealing. Once again, I'm all for going to Michael King. The BVP data looks a little scary, but it really isn't. He crushed him earlier this year. Last year, it was just relief appearances that he saw from them. I wouldn't worry about that BVP whatsoever. We got a 26% combined K rate versus an offense that just frankly isn't that good. So I don't mind whatsoever trying to pick on Seattle a little bit right there. Next, we got Blake Snell, the lefty versus Milwaukee Brewers, and Snell is absolutely in Cy Young form again. 2.62 FIP over his last 20, 1.99 over his last 5 with a 36% K rate over that span. Dude has been dealing. I'm not jumping off the bandwagon yet. With Snell, though, he is a little bit wild. So I never mind stacking against him a little bit. 5 walks per 9. That can get him into trouble, but he generally works himself out of it. I don't mind Blake Snell. I'm going to have some of him, absolutely, and I would suggest you do too, but I also don't mind a little bit of Milwaukee exposure just due to Snell's penchant for allowing people on base, and then you get a couple timely hits and bad things can happen quickly. Next, we got Hunter Brown versus Oakland. Brown is another guy that has been dealing. 3.23 FIP over his last 20, 2.48 over his last 5. I think he's in a great spot. He doesn't have quite the upside as Michael King, but he is very close. But I do believe he is in a little bit of a tougher matchup versus Oakland. However, he pitched very well versus them earlier this season, actually about a month and a half ago, almost 2 months this time, but 6 innings, 1 earned run, 8 Ks. Also did well against them last year. I don't mind going to some Hunter Brown whatsoever. I think he's an interesting spot. And probably my 3 favorite pitchers for today. Next, we got Cole Ragans versus the Yankees. There's big time upside here, and for that reason alone, I am interested. The Yankees only a 21.6% strikeout rate versus lefties, but 252 average, 181 ISO, 344 WOBA are all solid numbers, but also not anything like absolutely spectacular where you have to fade Cole Ragans. He's been too good for the entire season for me to want to fade him. Totally. Averaging 2.5% less fantasy points away is a little scary, but all in all, we got a 27% K rate at 9.3. I'm definitely interested to go his way. Zebby Matthews is too cheap. I'm fully willing to take some shots on here. However, it is a little bit scary. 5.42 FIP, 21% K rate. That FIP isn't great. However, Angels are just bad versus righties. So at 5.8K, 2.4X is a nice little value, and he's not that high owned. So I don't mind going there and taking the chance. Luis Gil. Guy has been pitching pretty well for the season. This back half of the season, he's had some struggles, but there is still big time upside. I am willing to go there, but I do like King, Snell, Brown, all better than Gil or Ragans, really. But Gil and Ragans are both absolutely still interesting on this slate here. After them, pitching gets pretty bad. Nick Pivetta, we know he has big-time upside, but he's versus Baltimore. Don't love going against Baltimore. Bobby Miller has been absolutely awful, and the Cubs have been swinging it. Bobby Miller is at least much better at home, so that is a little bit of a feather in his cap, but still can't really go there. Kremer versus Bo Sox, 9.5 game total. I don't really love it, but at 6.5K, he is at least a little interesting. Still not somebody I'm prioritizing whatsoever. Brian Wu has been a very good pitcher this year, but he's versus the Padres, who just don't give much upside to opposing pitchers, so I worry about going there. He is at least averaging 36% more fantasy points at home. Outside of that, I'm pretty much out on everybody else, so let's get over to FanDuel. All right, high-owned pitchers on FanDuel. We got Blake Snell and Hunter Brown. This spot with Michael King coming way less owned than either of them. I think King might be my guy, with Blake Snell a very close second. Our LineStar projections also are in agreement with that. So that would be my call. Mike King, probably my favorite pitcher on FanDuel. Blake Snell is like a 1B to King's 1A. Hunter Brown, third in this, ownership-based ranking. Ragans, Gill, don't mind either of them. Zebby is too cheap, but on FanDuel, where you have one pitcher only, I just don't think he's going to have enough upside to make it worth it. The 9K price tags aren't enough to really limit your batters that much, where I think Zebby can step in. So if there was two pitchers, Zebby would be very interesting to me. But with one, I just can't really go there that much. I don't think the upside is there for that 50, 60-point game, which it is for the other guys. Now, let's check on some stacks before we wrap this stuff up and get on with our Wednesday. Highest value plays, we got Oakland versus Hunter Brown. It is a tough spot for Oakland, but they've been hitting well. Angels versus Zebby makes a lot of sense on DraftKings, where Zebby is a little bit higher owned. There's going to be some leverage there. Plus, Zebby does have 5.42 FIP, so he can get hit. He can give it up a little bit. It just depends on if the Angels, who are terrible versus righties, can capitalize. Cubs versus Bobby Miller makes a lot of sense. Bobby Miller has just been atrocious lately. The one thing is that Bobby Miller has been better at home. Now, our highest owned stacks, Houston versus Joey Estes. 5.21 FIP over his last 5, 4.62 over his last 20. Makes a lot of sense to want to go to Houston, and 65% ownership isn't enough there. I want to fade them just due to ownership. There's ways I can use Houston and get them less owned, which is probably what I will do when I'm using Houston. Minnesota versus Jack Kokonowitz. Don't mind picking on him a little bit. Minnesota just put up 10. They're hitting decently. Dodgers versus Jordan Wicks. Jordan Wicks has actually been very good, so I don't love picking on Jordan Wicks. However, this Dodger offense has just been so good, it's hard not to want to use them nightly. At least the studs of the offense. Now, getting to our highest projected, we got Dodgers, we got Cubs, Houston. We've talked about them all. It makes a lot of sense. The one thing I am surprised, we're not seeing Baltimore or Boston in here. They have the highest run totals, so you might want to put some of them in there if you trust good old Vegas. Highest ceiling, we got Cubs, Oakland, and Houston. All of ones we have talked about, so just click teams. Boston has the highest implied run total at 5.1. I'm very intrigued to go to them. Minnesota at 5. Like them a lot also. Then 4.7 Dodgers, 4.6 Houston. Boston at 4.4. Behind Pivetta is a terrible bullpen. Pivetta also can give up some home runs. If Pivetta gets pulled after 4 or 5 innings, there's a lot of leash for Baltimore to really get stuff done. So I don't mind trying to put in some Baltimore stacks. Yankees, I think, are interesting versus Ravens. But Reagan's just doesn't give it up very much. It's the bullpen that they really got to get work done against, which they may only be able to have 2-3 innings against. St. Louis versus Brandon Williamson is fine. Angels versus Zebby, I think, is pretty interesting. And then after that, I like Cubs versus Bobby Miller. And leverage-wise, KC versus Lou Gill. Lou Gill has given it up a little bit lately, 4.87 FIP over his last 5, so I don't mind going there. Also, I think Cincinnati versus Lance Lynn is probably going overlooked. Lynn hasn't played for a while, had a 5.79 FIP over his last 5 before going on IL. So I think attacking Cincinnati with, a low ownership spot is pretty interesting. All right, guys, that will do it for us today. I hope you guys the best of luck. Let's get some takedowns, and we will be back tomorrow, probably. I haven't checked the schedule to make sure there's 4 afternoon games, as Thursday is generally a travel day. But as long as there's 4, I will be back with the Thursday show tomorrow. If not, see you guys Friday. Peace!